She thought she was marrying into the perfect family, until she told the groom's black mother she wasn't welcome at the wedding. But what she uncovered next shattered her world and rewrote everything she thought she knew about love, justice, and race. This isn't just a story, it's a reckoning. And once you hear the truth, you'll never forget her name. If you believe in justice, if you hate racism, and if you know silence can't bury truth, then subscribe, like, and share. Because this story could change a life, maybe even yours. The air in the penthouse was too still. You know, the kind of silence that hums louder than noise? That was it. I could hear the tick of the Cartier wall clock like a drumline. Emily stood by the window, her back to me, her reflection blending into the skyline of the city she thought she owned. She didn't turn when she said it. "Malik, I don't want your mother at the wedding." At first, I thought I'd misheard her. I actually laughed. "You said, what now?" She finally turned, brushing a strand of perfect blonde hair behind her ear. Her face was calm. Too calm. Like she'd rehearsed this. I said, "I think it's better if your mom doesn't come. It's going to be a small, elegant affair. Very private. Just curated." "Curated?" I echoed, stepping forward. "Emily, that's my mother. The woman who raised me, fed me, prayed me into college, scrubbed floors with bleeding hands, so I could have the life you said you loved." "Malik, it's not personal," she said, moving to touch my arm. I pulled away. She flinched. "Not personal?" I said, voice rising. "She's never missed a single thing in my life. Not the spelling bee when I was 7. Not my law school graduation. But now that we're planning some $1 million showcase for your socialite friends, she doesn't make the cut." Emily's eyes darted away. "You don't understand how my family operates," she whispered. "There are expectations, images to maintain. My father's inviting CEOs, politicians. And you think a black woman from Southside Chicago doesn't fit the aesthetic?" The words burned on my tongue. She didn't deny it. Not really. She just said nothing. Which was worse. "Let me ask you something," I said, voice low now. Controlled. "Is this really about my mother, or about what she reminds you of?" Her lip trembled. "Malik." "No. Say it. Does her skin, her voice, her truth, does it embarrass you?" She looked like a porcelain doll someone cracked with a hammer. Still pretty. Still whole. But you could see the damage if you looked close. "It's more complicated than that," she said. "It's always more complicated when it's about us," I shot back. "But simple when it's about you." And then, like a switch flipped, her tone turned cold. "You're overreacting. I'm not saying she can't be in your life. Just not in this part. Not in our wedding. It's one day, Malik." I stared at her, and in that moment, it wasn't just about the wedding. It wasn't even just about my mother. It was about the ugly little truth peeking out from behind all the candlelit dinners and designer gifts and pillow talk. I was loved in private, but rejected in public. I grabbed my keys. "Where are you going?" she asked, suddenly panicked. "To talk to the woman who gave me everything," I said. "And maybe to figure out if marrying someone who's ashamed of her is worth anything at all." I walked out, the door clicking shut like a gavel, and I didn't even know the half of what was coming. I didn't cry on the drive over. That's the kind of hurt that doesn't cry. It sits in your bones, heavy like soaked cotton. The kind of pain you clench your jaw around so it doesn't spill out and drown you. When I pulled up to Mama's place on 87th and King Drive, the porch light was already on. Like she knew I was coming. like Mama's always know. She opened the door before I knocked. "Boy, you better come in here before you freeze to death," she said, but her eyes were searching me, like she saw something broken behind my eyes. I stepped in. The smell of cinnamon, shea butter, and soul food memories wrapped around me like a blanket. She didn't say much at first, just handed me a bowl of hot gumbo, sat across from me, and waited. I didn't touch the food. "Emily said you can't come to the wedding," I blurted. She didn't blink. She said. Stirred her tea slowly. "That's so. She said it's a private event. Says you won't fit the image." Mama didn't flinch. Just looked me dead in the eye. "You finally see it, huh?" I frowned. "See what?" She sat back, folded her arms. "That look, equal parts sadness and I told you so. That some people love the idea of you, but not the truth of you. They love the lawyer, the good grammar, the clean shave and the Harvard tie. But they don't love where you came from, don't love what made you." I dropped my gaze. She wasn't yelling. That's what made it worse. "Why didn't you ever say something?" I asked. She smiled. Not with joy, with tiredness. "'Cause I saw the way you looked at her, like she was your sunrise. And I ain't never wanted to be the storm that blocked your light. That did it." My throat burned. "You sacrificed everything for me. You should be front row. You should be walking me down the damn aisle." She looked at me, soft but steady. "Baby, I didn't scrub white folks' floors for 30 years, just so you could beg to be loved by people who still see you as less than." Silence. Then quietly she said, "But I kept my mouth shut, because I owe you a truth I never told." I looked up. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for the photo box beneath the coffee table. She pulled out a picture, old, faded. A white woman holding a black baby. "Who is that?" I asked. "That," she said, her voice low, "is Emily's aunt. And that baby is you." The room tilted. "What?" She nodded slowly. "You were born from more than just love, Malik. You were born from scandal, from history they paid to hide. And I've kept it buried until now." The photo trembled in my hands. My fingers gripped the edges like the truth might bleed out if I wasn't careful. "She's holding me," I said slowly, my voice thin. "But that woman, she's white." Mama looked older in that moment than I'd ever seen her. Not from years, but from the weight of everything she'd carried in silence. "She's your birth mother's sister," she said. "The woman in that photo was the only one who tried to do right by you." I couldn't breathe. "You said you were my mother." "I am," she snapped, suddenly fierce. "I am in every way that matters. I raised you. I loved you. I fought for you. But I didn't carry you." Silence stretched between us like a canyon. I stood, backed away from her like the room was on fire. "So, I'm part white." Her eyes brimmed. "You're part them, Malik. And that's why they tried so hard to erase you." I dropped into the chair like my legs gave up. "Why? Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I thought love could shield you. I thought if I gave you everything, discipline, respect, ambition, that the world would see you as worthy without needing to know the rest." I stared at the photograph again. Suddenly, Emily's voice, her coldness, her insistence that her wedding be curated, snapped into place like a jagged puzzle piece. She knew something. Somewhere deep in her family's bones, this story had never been buried right. Mama continued. "Your mother was just 16. Got pregnant by a black boy she met while sneaking out to South Side clubs with her friends. When her family found out, they tried to ship her off. Said she was possessed. Shamed. Her sister, the one in the photo, wanted to help. But she was young too. Had no power. I looked up, heart racing. What happened to her? Mama's voice cracked. She died during childbirth. Her family didn't even put her name on your birth certificate. They forged papers. Paid folks off. They wanted to make it disappear. But her sister, she found me. I was working at the hospital. She begged me to take you. Said, please, don't let them bury him too. I closed my eyes, pain splitting through me like lightning. And you did it. You saved me. She nodded, eyes glistening. I raised you like you were mine, because you were. But when you started dating Emily, I knew. I recognized her last name. And I knew something ugly was gonna surface. The floor felt unsteady. The woman I loved, her family, may have erased my birth mother. Lied. Covered it up with money and power and fake smiles. Emily knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. I had to confront her. I left Mama's house without saying much more. I hugged her tight, tighter than I had in years. She kissed my cheek like she used to when I scraped my knees. When I pulled up to Emily's condo, I didn't text. Didn't call. I just knocked until she opened the door, robe wrapped tight, hair messy like she hadn't slept. Malik, she whispered. I was just about to call. I held up the photo. Who is this woman? She froze. Where did you get that? Answer me. Who is she? Her eyes welled. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. She's my Aunt Margaret, she finally said. My mom never talks about her. I stepped forward. She was my birth mother's sister. Emily's hand covered her mouth. Oh my God. You knew, didn't you? I said. Not everything, but something. She sank onto the couch. I found a letter in a box in my dad's office last year. It was from Margaret. To your mom, I think. I didn't understand what it meant. I asked my mother about it. She told me it was family drama and not to go digging. I stared at her. And then you told my mother she couldn't come to the wedding. I didn't know the whole story, she cried. But I knew enough to feel scared. Like if this got out, it would ruin everything. I sat across from her. Quiet. Broken. So you chose silence. She nodded, ashamed. I thought I was protecting us. No, I said, voice hard. You were protecting your name. Your status. Your illusion. She sobbed. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did. Silence fell like snow. Cold and soft and suffocating. Then she looked up. There's more, she whispered. My father, he's the one who signed the adoption papers. He paid your mom to take you. My family bought your silence. I felt like I was drowning in rage. You think this ends in wedding vows? I asked. Emily, this is war. This is history. This is a crime. She looked up, broken. Then let me help fix it. I shook my head. You can't fix what you're too afraid to face. I left. Again. And this time, I wasn't sure if I was ever coming back. I don't remember the drive to the Whitmore estate. Just the weight in my chest and the photo burning a hole in my coat pocket. Their mansion sat behind iron gates, white stone glowing under soft porch lights like it had never known suffering. But that was a lie. This place was built on secrets. I wasn't knocking on their door. I was knocking on a vault they tried to seal decades ago. Emily's father answered. Thomas Whitmore. Cold blue eyes, perfect salt and pepper hair, posture like he invented power. He didn't smile. Well, this is unexpected. You and I need to talk. He opened the door only enough to remind me it wasn't an invitation. Now isn't really. I shoved the photo into his chest. Tell me about her. He blinked. His whole body went still. And for a split second, I saw it, the crack. "You don't belong here," he said, voice low. Controlled. Threatening. "I do," I shot back. "Because she did." I stepped forward. "You signed my adoption papers. You paid off a nurse to take me. My mother died in your house, didn't she? And you let her die in silence." His face paled just slightly. But that was enough. She was 16. She was reckless, he hissed. She shamed our name. She lied to us. Snuck around. That boy manipulated her. That boy was my father. He flinched like I'd slapped him. "And she was a child," I continued. "She needed protection, not punishment." Mr. Whitmore straightened his back. "You've made a good life. You've risen far above what that situation would have given you. So you think your money saved me?" "No. I think my silence did." He reached for the photo again, but I pulled it back. "You don't get to erase this. Not anymore." A voice echoed from the stairs. Thomas. Emily's mother, Elizabeth, stood there in a silk robe, her hair pulled into a tight bun. She looked like she hadn't aged in 20 years, and like she knew exactly what this was about. "Margaret's boy," she said softly, eyes wide. "My God, you found him." "So it's true," I whispered. "You knew. You all knew." She came down slowly, but her eyes never left mine. "I tried to find you, years ago, but Thomas shut it down. Said it would only bring more shame. She was your sister." She closed her eyes. "She was the best part of us. And we buried her." I couldn't speak. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Elizabeth stepped closer. "She named you. Did you know that?" I shook my head. "She wanted to call you Elijah. Said you'd grow up to be a storm." Thomas scoffed. "Enough. You're not entitled to our history, Malik. You're not part of this family." "I'm more Whitmore than you are," I said coldly. "At least I don't hide from truth." He pointed to the door. "Get out." But Elizabeth grabbed my arm. Her eyes glistened. "You're not going anywhere. Not until this story is heard." We stood in that foyer for nearly an hour. Elizabeth told me everything. The affair, the pregnancy, the night Margaret went into labor and Thomas refused to call a doctor. How they waited too long. How the baby, you, were whisked away with a forged name, and no one ever said her name again. I thought I would feel rage, but all I felt was hollow. "What about Emily?" I asked. Elizabeth's voice cracked. She never knew the full story, only that there was a sister and something bad happened. I begged Thomas to tell her. He wouldn't. So she grew up afraid of the unknown. And now she's paying the price for our cowardice. I turned to leave. Thomas called after me. "If you do anything with this, we will fight you. You'll lose. You have no claim." I paused, looked him dead in the eye. "I don't want your money. I don't want your name. I want truth. And if you fight me on that, I'll bury you with it." I left that house a different man. But it wasn't over. The next day, a letter arrived at my mother's house. Legal language. A thinly veiled threat. Cease and desist. Defamation. Unfounded claims. They were trying to silence me again. But this time I had allies. Elizabeth reached out. She wanted to make things right. Said she was willing to testify, to speak publicly. That she was tired of living with ghosts. And Emily. She showed up at my apartment at midnight, tears in her eyes, holding a ring box. "I don't expect anything," she said. "But I know what my family did. And I want to be better than them. With or without you." I looked at the ring. "I don't need a proposal," I said. I need someone who will stand beside me when the world tries to erase me again. She nodded. Then let me start now. That's when the real war began. News outlets, investigators, a journalist who remembered the name Margaret Whitmore and had questions of her own. The truth was beginning to rise, like smoke from a fire that never stopped burning. And I was done running from it. The story broke on a Monday morning. Headline: Silenced heiress, hidden child, Whitmore family secrets exposed. The article was everywhere. National news, Twitter threads, TikToks dissecting every detail like we were a Netflix series. They used the photo I had shown Thomas. My mother, Margaret Whitmore, smiling in the sun with her arms wrapped around her belly. And beside it, a current photo of me. The caption: her son, Elijah Malik, demands answers. I wasn't ready for what came next. My inbox exploded. Messages from strangers, from other adoptees, from people who remembered my mother, who said she was kind, brilliant, who said they always wondered what happened to her. But the Whitmores? They went silent. Their lawyers issued a bland statement. The Whitmore family is saddened by the recent allegations. At this time, we are reviewing the claims with legal counsel. Cowards. Emily called me in tears. They won't return my calls. They froze my trust fund. They think I leaked it. I believed her. But I also warned her. This gets uglier before it gets better. You sure you're in this? I'm not backing down. She meant it. She moved in with me that same week, packed up her designer bags, and walked out of the mansion without looking back. But not without a price. Paparazzi followed us. News vans parked outside. I lost 2 photography clients who didn't want to get involved in a scandal. Even some of my own people turned on me. You really needed to go public? My cousin Kareem texted. Could have handled this quietly. All you did was stir the pot. I snapped. Quiet is how she died, Kareem. You think I care about your comfort. Still, it hurt. The loneliness. The public scrutiny. The way people stared when I walked down the street, trying to match my face to the girl in that black and white photo from the 90s. But I stayed standing, because she never got to. Then came the letter. From Elizabeth. Not an email. Not a phone call. A handwritten letter, pages thick. And in the middle of it, Margaret's journal. Thomas hid it, she wrote. I found it in the attic. I thought you should have it. I didn't breathe for 2 minutes. I ran my fingers across the leather. Cracked from age, but the initials still visible. M.W. I opened it. The first line read, If you're reading this, then I didn't make it. The pages that followed shattered me. Margaret had written everything. How she met my father, how she hid the pregnancy, how she planned to run away. Her fears, her dreams, her heartbreak, her faith. They call me disgrace. But you are my grace. I fell to my knees in the middle of my living room and cried until my chest burned. Emily sat beside me, rubbing my back, whispering, I'm so sorry, Elijah. But then she stopped. Her eyes froze on a page near the end. What is it? I asked. She looked sick. Pale. This entry. It's dated 2 days before she died. She says she overheard Thomas and your father arguing. Not my father, your father. I grabbed the journal. He begged Thomas to let him see me. Said he'd take me, raise me, protect me. But Thomas said no. Said he'd ruin me before he gave me to that boy from the east side. Emily's voice cracked. Do you know what this means? He was alive, I whispered. He wanted me. I had always believed he was gone. My adoption records said no father listed, no relatives searched. But now I had a name, Jasper Cole, and the fire in my chest reignited. I began searching that same night. Old databases, neighborhood listings, social media. Every Jasper Cole in the tri-state area got a message from me. Most didn't respond. One did, and he sent a photo of a younger version of himself, standing next to a teen girl. Margaret, my mother, he wrote. I knew you'd find me one day. I've been waiting. I stared at the photo of Jasper for what felt like hours. Same eyes, same chin, that subtle squint when he smiled. It was like looking at an older version of myself. I messaged him again. Where are you? He sent an address in Newark. Come tomorrow. I'll be waiting. I couldn't sleep. My heart wouldn't stop racing. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every child who had ever been erased. Every black father labeled absent when the system ripped them away. Every mother who died with truth buried under shame. Emily drove me. She held my hand the whole ride, her thumb tracing small circles over my skin. Whatever happens, she said, I've got you. The building was small, run down, but clean. 3rd floor. Apartment 3B. I knocked. The door opened, and there he was. Older, grayer, but those eyes. Jasper? I choked out. He nodded slowly, tears already in his eyes. Elijah? For a long second, we just stared. No words, just a silence filled with everything we never got to say. Then he pulled me into his arms. I'm sorry, he whispered. I tried. God knows I tried. We sat on his couch. The place smelled like old wood and sage. He poured tea with shaking hands. And then he began to talk. They threatened me, son. Told me if I didn't disappear, they'd ruin my life. My job. My name. Said I wasn't good enough for her. Said you'd be better off adopted than raised by someone like me. He paused. I was 19. No money. No power. And Thomas, he had the city in his pocket. I clenched my fists. So you let them take me. I didn't let them. I fought. But when I showed up at the hospital, she was already gone. They'd cremated her without even telling me. I looked at him, tears burning hot behind my eyes. I thought you left me. I never did, he said, his voice cracking. I celebrated your birthday every year. Kept hoping one day you'd knock on my door. I didn't realize I was crying until he reached out and wiped my cheek. I'm here now, I whispered. We talked for hours. About Margaret. About his life. About the way the world had tried to shrink him. And the way he'd kept growing anyway. I told him about the photo. About the journal. About Emily. When I mentioned her name, his face changed. Emily Whitmore, he asked. Yeah. He sat back, silent. What is it? He hesitated. She's not just the daughter of the man who stole you. He trailed off. What? She's the daughter of the man who had your mother's brakes cut. My stomach dropped. Wait, are you saying? I never believed it was an accident. But no one would listen. No one would dare accuse Thomas Whitmore. Emily paled. She was sitting across from us, hands trembling in her lap. My dad? He wouldn't, he couldn't. He'd do anything to protect the family name, Jasper said. Even kill. Silence swallowed the room. Then Emily stood. I have to talk to him. I grabbed her wrist. You can't go there alone. I'm not afraid of him anymore, she said. I need to know the truth for myself. That night, she went back to the Whitmore estate. Alone. She recorded the conversation. Thomas tried to deny it. Then he tried to spin it. But when she mentioned the brakes, his voice lowered. You don't know what you're talking about. You ordered it, didn't you? She pushed. She was going to ruin everything. That was all we needed. The next morning, the audio hit the internet. We didn't even leak it ourselves. Someone else did. Someone inside. Within hours, there were protests outside the Whitmore estate. Signs. Candles. Chants. Justice for Margaret. Silence is violence. No more erasure. A movement had begun. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a question mark. I felt like a force. But I also knew what came next wouldn't be easy. Because powerful men don't fall quietly. They crash. And they take everything they can with them. When the audio hit the news, it was like a bomb detonated in the center of the Whitmore empire. National headlines. Viral videos. Marches. And then, the subpoenas came. Thomas tried to hold the media line. Claimed the audio was doctored. That it was taken out of context. But it was too late. Emily's voice, clear, hurt, and resolute, had already touched millions. Jasper and I were invited to speak on a panel. We weren't just a story anymore. We were the story. And yet, I felt the weight of it all pressing on me. Every interview, every headline, every memory of Margaret's last breath. There was a cost to being visible, and that cost was never light. Emily came to me one night, eyes red and shoulders shaking. I've been subpoenaed, she whispered. You knew this was coming. She nodded. I just didn't know it would feel like losing a father while he's still breathing. I hugged her tight. Sometimes justice sounds like applause. Sometimes it sounds like silence between sobs. Jasper was quiet too, his face lined with decades of sorrow and restrained rage. They told me a man like me would never matter, he said. That if I stayed silent, I'd survive. I didn't survive. I just stopped living. He looked at me. You gave me a reason to breathe again, son. I'd never seen him cry like that. It broke me open. The day before the trial, we got a call. Someone anonymous wanted to meet. Said they had information. Proof that Thomas had buried more than Margaret's truth. I met her in a cafe near the courthouse. Her name was Evelyn, a retired nurse. I was working that night, she said, voice trembling. The night Margaret came in. I leaned in. And she was still alive, Elijah. She wasn't dead when they brought her in. I froze. They let her die. Ordered a DNR. Said she had no family. No father for the child. No future. She slid a folder across the table. Medical records. Signed off by Thomas Whitmore's personal physician. I couldn't breathe. They murdered her, I said. Evelyn nodded. Quietly. Legally. With a pen instead of a bullet. I felt something inside me shatter. Emily was waiting in the car. When I told her, she broke. She punched the dashboard until her knuckles bled. He killed her, she whispered. And then, almost too soft to hear, he raised me with that same hand. The trial began on a Monday. Packed courtroom. Reporters elbowing for position. Cameras flashing. Emily took the stand. Every lawyer in the room thought she'd crack. She didn't. She told the truth with shaking hands and a steel spine. About the breaks. The orders. The cover-up. I loved my father, she said. But love doesn't mean silence. And silence isn't loyalty. It's complicity. Jasper took the stand next. He recounted everything. From his first kiss with Margaret to the day they stole his son. I wasn't poor, he said. I was black. That was the crime they punished. I was the last to testify. I stood, swallowed hard, looked right at Thomas. I was born in silence, raised in absence, and told to be grateful. But I am not a whisper. I am a voice. And today, I speak for her. My hands were trembling, but I kept going. For every mother buried too soon. For every father erased. For every child raised on lies to protect someone else's legacy. I pointed at Thomas. You didn't just kill her. You killed the story we were supposed to be. And then I looked at the judge. But I'm writing a new one. When I stepped down, the courtroom was silent. Until Jasper stood and began clapping. One person, then two, then the whole room. Thomas didn't flinch, didn't blink. But I saw it. That twitch in his jaw. That fear. Because for the first time in his life, his name wasn't shielding him. It was sentencing him. That night, I stood on the stage. A single spotlight on me. The same boy who once cried alone in foster homes. Now holding a microphone with millions listening. I took a breath. Looked down at the name stitched onto my heart. Margaret Daniels. My mother was murdered by silence, I said. They told me she didn't matter. That we didn't matter. My voice cracked. But I didn't stop. They stole her voice. So I made mine loud. They buried her story. So I turned it into a storm. And now, you know her name. The audience was frozen. Not a sound. I was born from love, stripped by hate, and raised by truth. And I refused to live small, just because this world is afraid of big black truth. I pointed to the crowd. To every black child who feels invisible, you are not. To every mother erased, we see you. And to anyone who still thinks justice can be bought. I paused. Let it sink. You cannot silence the blood of the unheard. It screams louder than legacy. The crowd erupted. Tears. Applause. Fists raised. Jasper held up the ring. Emily clutched Margaret's old scarf, worn and weathered, but unbroken. Like us. I stepped forward, eyes locked on the camera. And if this story touched you, if you believe in truth, in justice, in the power of rising when the world tries to bury you, then don't just watch. My voice dropped to a whisper. Stand with us. Then louder. Subscribe. Like. Share this video. Because someone out there is living a silent story right now. And your click, your voice could save them.